Have you ever been told that your dreams were too big, simply because you were born poor? I have. My name is Emma. Years ago, people knew me as the poor girl who walked to school wearing worn-out shoes. Today, people know me as the founder of a company that helps thousands of young women build better lives. But this isn't a story about money, it's a story about hope. And it all began in a tiny village. I was born in a small wooden house on the edge of a quiet village. My father worked as a farmer, and my mother stitched clothes for our neighbors. We didn't have much. Sometimes our dinner was just rice and vegetables. Sometimes the electricity went out for hours. Sometimes we couldn't even afford new clothes. But every night, my mother would kiss my forehead and say, "Emma, never let your circumstances decide your future." At the time, I didn't understand those words. Years later, they became the reason I never gave up. School was both my happiest place and my hardest place. Many of the other children came from wealthier families. They carried brand new backpacks. They wore clean uniforms. I carried my books in an old cloth bag my mother had sewn by hand. Some classmates laughed at me. One girl whispered, "Poor girls never become successful." I smiled, but inside, those words hurt more than she could ever imagine. That evening, I cried quietly so my parents wouldn't hear me. My mother sat beside me and held my hand. She didn't promise life would be fair. She simply said, "One day, let your success answer them." From that day on, I studied harder than ever, every morning. I woke up before sunrise to help my father in the fields. After school, I helped my mother sew clothes. At night, I studied under a small oil lamp because we often couldn't afford enough electricity. There were nights when I was so tired that I fell asleep with a book in my hands, but every morning I started again, because my dream was stronger than my excuses. When I turned 17, everything changed. My father became seriously ill. He could no longer work on the farm. Our small income disappeared almost overnight. Some relatives suggested I leave school and work full-time. Others even said, "She's a girl. Education won't change her life." For the first time, I almost believed them. I thought my dream had come to an end. A week later, my English teacher called me into her office. She handed me an application form. "What is this?" I asked. "A scholarship," she replied. "I've watched you work harder than anyone else in this school. You deserve a chance." I filled out the application with shaking hands. Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived. I had received a full university scholarship. When my father read the letter, tears filled his eyes. He hugged me and whispered, "You just gave this family hope again." University wasn't easy. Most students came from wealthy families. They had laptops, nice apartments, new clothes. I worked evenings at a small cafe to pay for food and transportation. Some nights, I finished work after midnight and still had exams the next morning. There were moments when I wanted to quit. Whenever I felt like giving up, I remembered my mother's words, "Let your success answer them." So I kept going. After graduation, I applied for dozens of jobs. Company after company rejected me. Some never replied. Others said I lacked experience. I began to wonder if everyone had been right. Maybe poor girls really couldn't succeed. Then one evening, I looked at myself in the mirror and asked, if I quit today, what was all that struggle for? The answer was simple. I wasn't ready to give up. Instead of waiting for someone to hire me, I decided to start my own small online business. At first, I sold handmade products my mother and I created together. The first month, I sold only 3 items. The second month, 7. Some people laughed. They said it would never become a real business, but every customer made me believe a little more. I kept learning. I kept improving. I kept trying. Years passed. Slowly, my little business grew. 3 customers became 30. 30 became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. Eventually, I built a company that employed women from villages just like mine. Many of them were single mothers. Some had never worked before. Others had once believed their dreams didn't matter. Watching them earn their first paycheck reminded me of my own beginning, and that feeling was worth more than any amount of money. The happiest day of my life wasn't when my company became successful. It happened on a quiet Saturday morning. I drove my parents to a beautiful new house. There was a small garden filled with flowers my mother loved, a peaceful porch where my father could sit every evening. I handed my mother a key. She looked confused. "What is this?" I smiled through tears. "It's your new home." She stood there, in complete silence. Then she hugged me so tightly that neither of us could speak. My father looked around the house and whispered, "You turned our prayers into reality." That moment made every sacrifice worthwhile. A year later, I returned to my old school, the same classroom, the same wooden desks. I spoke to a room full of young girls. Some wore old shoes, some carried worn-out bags. I saw myself in every one of them. Before leaving, I said, "Never let anyone tell you your dreams are too big because your family is poor. Your future isn't decided by where you begin. It's decided by whether you keep moving forward." The room became completely silent. Then every student stood up and applauded. Today, people often ask how I became successful. They expect me to talk about business plans or money, but the truth is much simpler. Success began the day I stopped believing the voices that said I couldn't. It began when my parents believed in me. Before I believed in myself, it began with hope. So if you're listening to my story today and life feels impossible, please remember this. Being born poor is not your choice. Staying trapped by the belief that you can't succeed is. Keep learning, keep believing, keep working, because one day, the little girl everyone underestimated might become the woman everyone admires. And maybe your story will inspire someone else to never give up. Thank you for listening, and always remember, dreams don't ask where you were born. They only ask whether you're brave enough to chase them. Please like, comment, and subscribe this channel for more heart-touching story. See you in the next video.